discussion on the Vinaya, what does it mean? What does the word Vinaya mean after our long explanation on Monday or Tuesday? What does Vinaya mean? It means discipline, but let's be real. What does discipline mean? Like someone on the street walks up to you and is like, "Hey, I'm going to this course. It's on Vinaya." And you say to them, "It's on discipline." Are they going to be like, "Aye, aye, Captain"? Are they going to be like, "Am I joining the army?" Like, what? What does it mean?
Discipline and practice in meditation consistently.
No, no, a little bit, a little bit.
On how to lead a moral and ethical life.
Oh, okay. Yeah, but you're in a restaurant. Okay, I want you guys to start thinking this way. You're in a restaurant. There's two people over here making me coffee. All right. And they're like, "Why are you here so early, Tim? You usually don't come to the cafe to like 8 o'clock." And I was like, "Oh, well, I'm teaching this class this morning and blah blah blah." And if they say, "Oh, what are you teaching about?" And what are you going to say? Like, are you going to say, "Oh, how to live a moral life"? Like, come on, let's try again. Let's be more accessible.
You're going to say how to live how to live a life that will make all your dreams come true. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Okay. Right. And then you're going to talk about Vinaya. And what does Vinaya mean?
How to do not disturb other people's minds, kind of protect their minds, be about their needs, take care of other people. Ethical
All
life
those, yeah, all those things are true. But I want to talk about Vinaya. Vinaya means to discipline. What are we disciplining? Right. We're disciplining our minds, but what does it mean to discipline our minds? Like, why do we have to discipline ourselves? Do I have to go ahead?
No, don't do the things that you don't know that you don't have to do.
Don't do the things you don't know yet not to do. I like that. That's good. But so when people hear the word to discipline, right? It sounds like, oh, I'm going to discipline you and put you in timeout, or I'm going to, you're not allowed to spank people anymore. Like you're not allowed to hit kids on the butt anymore in the United States. It's a thing, right? Where parents used to like smack kids in the butt when they were misbehaving. You know, but yeah, so see how it's not just one word; it's a complex thing. And what you guys were saying earlier is not incorrect. But it's what does it mean to come to a course to learn about Vinaya, which is mainly the Pratimoksha vows, the vows to freedom, the vows that are going to allow you to get the things you want by stopping doing the things that get in your way. That's what we mean by discipline, because you don't want to touch a hot stove and burn your hand. I don't, right? But even then, it's like you have to learn, why don't you touch that stove? Why don't you do certain things? Why don't you do certain things? Because those certain things are going to block you from achieving your goals. And then we're going to become aware of what those things are. And something that Natalia said, which I want to review specifically, is the why. Like, why do we, like, what is Vinaya the foundation of? I didn't really say foundation yet, but I'm telling you, what is it the foundation of? It's the foundation of all of our practices. It's what becomes the engine that make everything work. because without it, nothing can work. Because your mind will just be all over the place. It'll be unruly. You won't be able to focus. You won't be able to calm it down. You won't be able to see things. And what are we trying to see? Like, imagine someone who is unfocused. Like, what is their mind like? Like, you ever tried to have a discussion with someone who's not able to focus? What is that? What is that experience like? You ever try to argue with someone who's unfocused? You might as well be trying to rationalize with your cat in the middle of the night why they shouldn't be waking you up. My cat did all night last night. So in doing so, by learning to tame your mind, you do get to a place that's called good concentration, right? What Mina just said. Why? Why does learning how to tame your mind become a thing that allows you to be able to focus on things? And we can talk a little bit more about it, but mainly it's because you are now not distracted by the bad things you've done. You're not distracted by the things that have caused mental afflictions in others. You're not distracted by the ways that you have implicitly hurt other people. Like the example I used on Tuesday was, all right, so for example, lying. If you lie, how much energy do you have to spend on lying? How much energy do you have to spend on managing the time to maintain a lie, right? And it's right, a lot. Like you have to remember that you lied. Right? Because then if you don't remember you lied, then you get caught in the lie. So when you don't lie, then you don't have to worry about it at all. You don't have to worry about that's not a distraction in your mind because you're not having to think about it because you already told the truth. You can move on. So then your mind is able to do other things. It's able to stay on, it's able to stay more, it's able to stay more on objects, it's able to meditate more. And I'm not talking about just, oh, sit in meditation. I'm talking more about like being with somebody. I was sitting over here yesterday and I was talking to someone and I kept reaching for my phone. I kept like, I had this energy that kept going to go, oh, look at the phone. Oh, look at the phone. And I was like, what am I, like, what is going on? I'm actually enjoying the conversation. It's not like but this distraction kept coming. And I was like, oh, it's because I promised to tell somebody something that I hadn't told them. I was supposed to meet with somebody and things got delayed and it just wasn't going to happen. And I was, my normal self would just be like, yeah, whatever, forget about it, right? But my more practiced self was like, No, 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 Tim, bad seeds, bad seeds. It's like an alarm goes off, right? It's like an alarm goes off. It says, whoa, 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 you're planting bad seeds. So I said, look, I said, excuse me, I have to write a message to someone because XYZ. So I took the time, picked up my phone, I typed a message and I was done. But the energy was arising to say, oh no, you're about to plant a bad seed. Somebody's waiting for you. You see. So then I was able to actually be more present with my friend. So then you're able to see more, right? And that's sort of what we want to get to. We're able to see more, we're able to visual, we're able to pay attention more to things and be more present, which is a bodhisattva thing, first of all, right? You don't have this like this energy to go, oh, I gotta go to my phone, gotta look at my phone. But then that transitions to meditative concentration, which then allows you to actually see more. And what we're talking about is actually seeing more about the nature of reality, the way things work. Like, yes, being present with people and listening to people and understanding what they need is great. It's special. You know, all those things are wonderful. I'm not saying that. And being able to sit in meditation and then be able to see that the inner workings of reality, the way your world becomes the world for you. Right? If you have a, so by doing so, then you can really help people. But so we're going to unwind all of that. We're going like, let's go all the way back to the beginning. Like, let's go back to being like unruly children and recognize that maybe we are just that. Like, and it's okay. Right, Claudia? Claudia's like, yep. Let's just, let's be okay with like, yeah, you know what? Like, oh, I'm an advanced tantrika. I've done all these things, right? No, 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 you haven't. Like, go back and just keep your like basic morality. If your mind is distracted, if you're not able to take care of others, if you're not able to meditate, if you find yourself getting irritated, then okay, go back to the basics, go back to the foundations. If you're finding that there's a little less magic in the world, if you're finding that you had something cool, but then it wasn't, you know, things just aren't working anymore, well, go back to the basics, go back to the foundation. You got to build it. And sometimes we miss steps because we want to move too fast. You know, so, you know, in the study of Vinaya, you know, we're good. Today's class is mainly the outline of the Vinaya Sutra. Wow, that's so much fun. We're going to go through an outline. But in there, it goes through all the things that you need to be a good Vinaya practitioner. You know, and as we said earlier, you know, a lot of that is, this is mainly geared towards people who are going to become ordained. Like mainly people who are going to say, who are going to put on robes and like and live that kind of lifestyle. But we don't have to think of it necessarily that way. And and we're not, I mean, if you have a call to be ordained, let me know and I can put you in contact with with the right people. But there are lay people versions of Vinaya. Natalia's like, I'm thinking about it. Probably maybe in past lives we were all ordained anyway, so it's okay. But yeah, so we're going to go through that outline today, and we're going to see how this relates to us. Like how do we start practicing all of this? All right, give me 3 seconds so I can go get my infusion of caffeine. Yeah. All right, so here we go. So the first thing we have to know is who wrote the commentary on this? Who showed us what the outline was? It's one of our favorite authors, writers, and his name is Choni Lama Jokpa Shedrup. There's his name. So we shortened his. We typically just refer to him as Choni Lama, and his ordination name is Drakpa Shedrup. And what does Choni mean, if anyone cares? It's just the place where he's from. So if you guys want to shorten my name, Tim, you can call me Pittsburgh Lama. Okay, get it? Which isn't shorter. So I'm from the town of Pittsburgh, and if you want to call me a llama, I'm not saying do that, but you could do that if you want. But so Pittsburgh Llama, like Choni Lama, we call him that. Right? So he made this outline. So the thing that we want to, the first thing that we talk about in taking the vows, hold on a second, here things on the way. The first thing we want to talk about is how does one go from, so, the idea of the Vinaya is that you take certain commitments. Like you say, I'm going to learn what those commitments are. So then I can clear up my mind. I can help clear up my mental afflictions. Because the main goal of the Vinaya sutras, the Vinaya study, is to reach nirvana, which we've talked about in other classes, is to reach liberation. So we're going to talk about what those things are for, for us normal people, what some of those things are for the ordained people too. So the first thing that the Vinaya talks about is how to go from not having those vows, not having those commitments, to having them, right? So it's like, how do you get started? Like, how do you go from the before to the after? That's pretty straightforward, right? How do you go from a normal old, so, you guys don't know that word, like just a normal old person, to someone who's carrying these commitments, the freedom vows, the ones that will take you to liberation. And so you get these, commitments, right? And mainly for us, there's 10. And so then once you have them, how do you protect them, right? How do you keep them from being broken? How do you protect them from damage, right? So if you're a runner, like that first image, like you're about to start the race, like now that you've been running a lot, how do you keep your legs healthy? How do you keep your joints healthy? Like, how do you keep your body in shape? Like, how do you keep the vows in shape? That's actually probably the hardest, right? How do you maintain that? And then thirdly, what happens if you do get injured, right? You know, what happens if you do something that breaks the vow? Like, what happens if you do go against it? Like, what are the ways to put it back together? How do you restore it? What is the name of the commentary? That's a good question. Huh, that's funny. I didn't write it down. I just wrote a commentary on the sutra on the Vinaya Sutra. Huh. Let me have a look here. That's a very good question. Let's see here. Ah, there it is. It's called the Wishing Jewel. It's a commentary, a commentary and a commentary. So it's a commentary on Master Gunaprabha's Sutra on Vinaya. Good question. Thank you, Sagar. Wish fulfilling jewel, yes. Make sure I got that right. Yeah, the wishing jewel, excuse me. So, so in a monastery, there's a whole bunch of ways, like the whole thing is formalized. Like there's a whole formal structure to get your vows, and then there's a whole formal structure what you do if you break them, and it depends on which level, like some of them are, some of the commitments are like, pretty serious, like killing, stealing, sexual misconduct. That's one. Those are pretty serious ones. Um, but there's other less serious ones that, some require you just to like, you know, go into timeout. Some of them require you to like have to like do the dishes. Others require like formal apologies in front of everybody, where you have to get up and say, "I'm sorry, I did this." Um, and they have formal ceremonies. Like every 2 weeks, they do sojung, they do a confession. And I don't know, is Chloe here? She's not. Chloe, who's here in Sedona, she runs a every 2 week sojung where people come together and they just confess their boo-boos. Um, you know, hey, I got mad at this person. You know, I got divisive. You know, I was gossiping. Or some more serious things, right? But the act of confessing, let me tell you guys something. The act of confessing the things you've done wrong is a hugely humbling and powerful practice. So I highly, highly suggest finding someone that you trust, that you can call and be like, you know what? Someone who's going to not judge you for your, let's call it your practice, right? These are a practice. It's a practice to become a better person. It's a practice. Like, I'm sorry, like, okay, don't speak harshly, Tim. Don't speak divisively. Okay, great. Great. Tell that to your mind when you're judging people. Like, even here in the cafe is so much fun. Like people walk in and I'm sometimes like, I'm pounding away my computer and I'm like, I see them walk in and I'm like, you're wearing that? Like even stupid stuff like that. You're wearing that? Where someone's being annoying or someone's talking so loud that I can't even hear myself. And instead of going to the place of, oh, I wonder how I've disturbed other people, I make a face. Or inside, I'm like, you are so, you are not a fun human being, whatever it is. Usually it's much more colorful. So, you know, it's great to have a friend that you can call and say, hey, can we talk about some of these things? Because there's also an act of confession to say, look, I'm practicing and I didn't have a good day. that also is a 4 powers as well, which also helps neutralize the power of those seeds too. So that's also a really good benefit, because if you can neutralize the seeds as fast as you plant them, you don't have to carry it. Like, think of it this way. When you have how many, like, if you've ever had a conversation, like you've been holding on, like you've wanted to have a conversation, with someone you've had conflict with for a long time. I actually did this on Monday night. Been having you know, been having a Buddhist conflict with them. And what I mean is I've been doing oh, it's coming from me thing. And I've been working at the level of seeds for quite a while on this. And I've been very outwardly friendly with this person and patient and kind and supportive and everything. And I got to the point where their behavior was hurting other people, including themselves. And I've been, but it's been building, right? It's been like, if, when you've been building in conflict and then you haven't said anything, right? There's an energy behind it. Or if you haven't, you know, another good example would be like, no, let's not go there. Anyhow, so on Monday night, I finally was like, hey, I need to talk about some things. And I shared my experience of them and other people's experience of them and the difficulties I see them, the situations I see them creating. Um, and there was kind of a relief that happens afterwards, right? The energy opened up, the energy moved. Like if you've ever broken up, like you've been thinking about breaking up with somebody and you finally do it, even though it sucks, right? That, but like there's a relief that you finally you finally said it. That relief, that you finally express something. It's the same with negative seeds. Same thing. Just don't let the energy turn into relief energy. Do something bad. Okay, fine. I did it. And confess it and move on. You see, like we're going to have moments. Yes, we're going to have moments. We're practitioners, but just do it and move on. I'm not saying do the bad thing, but if the bad thing happens and you do it, you can't control yourself because you're not tamed. Natalia is like, right. And then when you catch yourself, 5 minutes later, 30 seconds later, 3 years later, then let the energy out, move it, regret it, understand that negative deed will create a negative result. So the faster you can confess it, the faster you can keep that seed from becoming a terrible seed. All right. Yay, that was exciting. So how do you go? So the main thing is the before and after. How do you prevent them from being damaged? And then what do you do if they do get damaged? Which is, frankly, the thing we mostly need to worry about. So that's an interesting question. Pay asked a very interesting question. They said, why focus on self-benefit when we're talking about the ethical life? For $50. Why am I focusing more on self-benefit? Uh-oh. Nope, I'm looking for a very specific answer. Nope. I like that you guys are thinking. These are all correct answers-ish, but I'm looking for a specific answer. And that's all true. No, okay, cancel the bet. Cancel the bet. It's because the Vinaya is lower scope. The Vinaya is the Hinayana track. The Vinaya is only concerned with me achieving nirvana, primarily. Okay. It doesn't include the Mahayana yet. All right. Our Hinayana practice, how do I say this? Do Hinayana practitioners only think of themselves? No, don't think that way. Okay, but it's primarily focused on achieving my own nirvana, right? That's why we're talking this way, is how Vinaya speaks. But I'm weaving in the Mahayana perspective too. And for you who want to be teachers, pay attention to how that's done. Okay. So I found this cool picture, which I think is actually the crux of what we're doing. All right. So we had the Buddha who spoke the Sutra Vinaya, right? Vinaya Sutra, excuse me. You know, and I want to go in a little bit about like why, like what are we really doing here? Like, why are we talking about these, these codes of conduct? And the main point is for us to like do an analysis. Like, let's get into the weeds of what are the subtle workings of karma. Like, this is why I like this picture, right? Here's the Buddha, like understanding the inner workings of the world, right? Like seeing the world in a way that we don't see it. Because when it comes to the real subtle workings of cause and effect, like what caused this orange wall behind me, right? What caused the little time, like I get like one little hair that grows on this part of my nose right here, right? And I'm like, what the hell? Like, why one little hair? Like I look in the mirror and I'm like, I gotta put on my glasses to see it, right? Like what caused that hair there and not a hair here? Like, what caused, you know, the weather today? Like, why is it beautiful outside? Or, what are the little causes for that? Like, and you could ask a Buddha and be like, yo, Buddha, like, why do I got a little hair here? And it really depends on, of course, how I perceive it. Do I perceive it as annoying? Do I perceive it as attractive? Right? Things that you might see as unattractive about yourself, someone will absolutely love, right? Um, but those subtle things, like what caused what? I mean, this orange wall to me is very pleasant. So, you know, what, what did I do in like 3,000 lives ago to create this orange wall? I don't know, right? A Buddha could tell me. Like, even if it was created in this life, who the hell knows? I'm like, was I nice to my first grade teacher? Did I color a picture for my first grade teacher and like make a beautiful like thing and I gave it like, hey teacher, yeah. Like, and I offered a picture that, probably I thought was beautiful that was probably just like, you know, 6-year-old stick figures, whatever. But but what are those inner workings, right? What are the subtle workings? And we've talked about this in other classes, but it's worthy of a review. What are the three levels of reality? I know there's like 2 levels and 5 levels. There's all different. I'm talking about 3 in this case. What are the 3 levels of reality? And I'll give you $100 if you can say it in Tibetan. Correct spelling. All right, cancel the bet. Let's do fake, and ultimate. No. Evident, obvious reality, hidden reality, and like super hidden reality, subtly hidden, deeply hidden. So it's Nungir, Kokir, and Shinto-Kokir. All right. So obvious stuff as we can see, like if you have eyeballs, human eyeballs, okay, you're all probably seeing an orange wall here, right? Maybe the color on your computer is off. Maybe you're seeing a yellow wall or a green wall. Maybe you're colorblind. Maybe your eyes, maybe you have eyes that don't work. Maybe you're blind, right? Maybe there's someone on the call who's just listening. And they're like, wow, it's really annoying, Tim, then when you point at an orange wall, right? And you don't explain that you are, and I don't know that you're pointing at an orange wall, right? Like, think about it. Like, if there's a blind person on the, who listens to these calls, right? And they can't even, if I go, oh, what color is this wall? And they're like, Tim, it doesn't help me as a practitioner. So to me, this is an orange wall. To most of you who have your cameras on, there you go. See, see how I'm subtly pushing that, right? Thank you. To you, this is orange, right? But to someone who's blind, that's a hidden reality. They only know this is an orange wall because somebody tells them, right? Or they use other senses to perceive it. There's no way for them to understand that's an orange wall. They can't see it. It's hidden to them. Now, a question is everything that's obvious reality for everybody? No, right? You just proved it. Even for colors. For some people, my good friend Seiji is colorblind. It's super fun to go shopping with him. And it's like, oh, let's buy something for your wife. And he picks it out and it's ugly. I'm like, oh, that's so beautiful. And I'm like, no, 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 don't buy that. Doesn't go, it doesn't, but for them, it's not. So we have to understand that that's what all of our world is like. I have so with the person I had the conflict with on Monday night that I finally discussed with, what we understood was we understood a hidden reality that both of us were operating. We were operating under different assumptions of what we were expecting from other people. And so this person was expecting certain things that I had no idea about. It's like, what? I was like, just send me excuse me. If you want to know something, just send me a message. Ask me what's up. Hey, could you provide me an update? Like, and they were offended that I wasn't providing updates. I'm like, I told you what was going on. I told you if there was any new news, I would give you new news. I like that translator. New news. There's no update, so there's nothing to tell you, right? Well, I'm the boss. I'm like, yeah, you got to tell me what you expect. You should know what to expect. Uh, I'm sorry, that's hidden reality for me. Like, so imagine like taking away all the emotion. Like, oh, that was hidden from me. That was hidden from you. Great, now we can make things obvious. But okay, so let's go deeper into that, right? Obvious reality, this orange wall for most of us. Hidden reality, like I can't see it. And then subtle, deep Shinto-kokyu, only a Buddha can see that. And so the Buddha taught us how to behave in ways that will create liberation. Okay. Why do, I think it's 264, 54, 264 monks vows? Why do 264 codes of conduct help create liberation? We can't see it. But what you can start seeing is if you start practicing those, or the ones we're going to talk about for lay people, what the results are. And when you start seeing the results, then it starts moving from Shinto-kokyu into more obvious reality, which is why it's just like being a child. Mom says, don't touch the hot stove. Don't touch the hot stove. Right? And the kid's like, why? Because it'll burn. What is burning? It's hot. What is hot? It's uncomfortable. It hurts. What's hurt, mommy? Okay, fine. Go touch the hot stove and come back and we'll have a conversation. It's the same with the Buddha. The Buddha's like, can't take away your seeds, so I can teach you to do this. And so how does one get inspired to do that? Yeah, someone said it early on. Find people who are living examples of it. Why are 125 of you here? I bet there's somebody who you've heard or know who's had some success with these teachings. And you're like, I want to learn that. I want to learn. And so then I'm like, oh yeah, so the Buddha said this. And you're like, well, the Buddha achieved enlightenment. The Buddha taught the path how to do that. He gave us all these instructions, some of which are not obvious why to do it. Maybe, maybe there's a reason. Maybe I should try. Okay, great, let's try. You know, so it's one of those things that like when you follow those, when you follow it, and then when you have success yourself, then it moves from Shinto-kokyu to obvious reality. And you can see that when you can start seeing those direct correlations, then that'll inspire more. And I'm guessing that many of you have seen those correlations in some way. You felt it. You felt the change. And that's why you're here. Okay. Do anything for these? So really quickly, in the beginning of the text, since we're going through the outline, but before it, there's three things that typically happen in the beginning of a Buddhist book that I think is necessary for us to know. We're not going to spend a lot of time on it. But the first thing that Chone Lama does is he explains the meaning of the name of the text, the Vinaya Sutra. Goes through what does it mean, and we've actually already discussed that. And then he says specifically, gives an explanation of who the translator bows down to. Okay. And in every Buddhist book, typically there's an honoring to somebody. Like I bow down to somebody at the beginning of a book. You know, I bow down to the Buddha. I bow down to Manjushri. I bow down to wisdom. I bow down to compassion. Avalokiteshvara. Who you decide to bow down to is also indicative of what the book is about. And I'm having a teacher's blanking moment right now. And frankly, I can't remember who he bows down to. And I didn't take notes anyway. So I'm going to come back to class on Saturday and give you the answer to this. I'm just looking at my notes and it's not easily accessible now. So I'm going to have to go back. And I don't remember who it was. And I remember it's important, but it just fell out of my head. So I apologize that it's not in my head right now. But this is a good teaching moment. Okay. Who do you think he bows down to and why? That's how I could have actually gotten out of the problem. Okay. For all of your teachers out there, you know, that's how you can get out of that problem. You could have said, hey guys, who do you think is being bowed down to in the beginning of this book and why? And then we'll come back on Saturday. That's your homework. Haha. Okay. Think about it, and we'll talk about it Saturday. That's a great pedagogical technique. Another good pedagogical technique is to do a meditation. And then while you're meditating, you can think about what you're going to teach next. Or you could just open your eyes a little bit and then like look through your notes. Okay. So anyhow, so think about it. Who does he bow down to? I'm not teaching you a bad thing. I'm just teaching you that maybe as a teacher, you are in the process of perfectionizing yourself too. And you have to recognize that if you think you're going to be perfect as a teacher, you got to put that out there. You got to kick that out the door right now. All right. You're going to make mistakes as a teacher. Okay. You're going to make mistakes with your students. It's just part of the process. And when you make a mistake, apologize. And you know, what did they teach you? They taught you something. So humble yourself as a teacher. Because eventually, you know, you'll get kicked in the teeth anyways. So it's better just to be humble, then it becomes more comfortable when you mess up. And maybe it's not a mess up. So okay, let's go back. And then finally, so Chone Lama does an explanation of the name of the text, an explanation of the translators, who the translator bows down to, and then the statement of purpose. What is the commentary on that? Like, what is the purpose of it? He does those three things. Which includes, so the statement of purpose includes three things. What are we studying? the Pratimosha vows themselves, the vows of individual freedom. And then there's 11 separate topics about the vows, which we're not going to talk about because technically you're not supposed to know the vows unless you are going to be ordained yourself. They're kind of secrets in some way. So am I a secret monk? That's a secret. No, I'm not ordained. That'd be funny if I was secretly a monk for like 13 years. Okay, moving on. So the next section after that, we did that, we did that, we did that, is, which is the most important part, is how do we keep the vows from being damaged? Like, what do we need to do? Like, how do we create a structure? Now, think of it this way. How do you create the necessary conditions in your life? You know, like when we're setting up a meditation space, like what are the things you do to have a good meditation space? What are the things you do to have a good Vinaya space? Like, what do you do to create a container for you to keep the vows? Like we talked about it earlier, right? One of the things is to have somebody you can confess to. And we kind of call that the outer support. Like, have friends who you can say, yo, I was a jerk yesterday. You can be like, I'm still a jerk. By the way, don't take yourself so seriously. Right? And don't take other people too seriously either. Like you don't need to correct people's behavior. Oh, I'm such a good Vinaya practitioner, so you're breaking your vows, and I'm going to tell you you're breaking your vows. Like, come on. Like, just be your own judge. It should be joyful. Like, this is the weird thing about taking, commitments like this. People go, you're restricting me. You're taming me. You're disciplining me, right? Smack on the butt, right? You've been a bad boy, Tim. Like, what? No, it's not like that. Why are they called the vows of individual freedom? Like, how can they free you from your suffering? That's the whole point. Oh, so you just want to stay in your suffering state? Okay, great, fine, stay there. Good luck. Good luck with that, right? You know, but if you want to figure out how to move away from those, if you want to figure out how to move into something that's more, a reality that's completely different, one where maybe you don't take yourself so seriously. Oops, I messed up. Okay. How many people, when they mess up, go into a deep, dark hole, you know, and then beat themselves up afterwards? The other day, I was in a high level executive meeting with some, it was a lot of, big decision makers, and I was giving reports on things, and I got afflicted about. There was an affliction building, and I didn't know it was building. I was getting some questions that I was kind of getting defensive about, and I ended up blurting something out that had been bothering me for about 3 months. And it just came out, it flew out of my mouth. There was no plan. I wasn't meditating on it. I didn't have a sneaky plan on how I was going to then tell somebody, right? It just flew out of my mouth. And someone got wildly offended, understandably, because I didn't mean to say it the way I said it, and I didn't mean it. Right? So, but it ended up, right? And after the meeting, Geshe Michael looked at me and he said, "What's wrong?" And I said, "Well, I feel really bad about what happened. I really offended someone and I hurt them, and I didn't mean to do it that way, and I wanted to have a different kind of conversation." And he said to me, he said, "Don't worry." And I said, "Oh, why?" He said, "Well, first of all, that person will get over their affliction in 12 hours." He said, their normal time, it takes about 12 hours. And I said, "Oh, okay." And then so I said to him, "Well, how long does it take you to get over afflictions?" And he said, 3 hours. I'm like, oh. I was like, "You're about right. It normally takes me, like when I'm actually in it, takes me about 3 hours. Like I go into my like affliction hole, it takes me 3 hours to come out." So how do you navigate your own affliction? And if vows of individual freedom get you karmically to a place where you do something wrong, you're like, oops, like Britney Spears, oops, I did it again. You guys remember that from, I don't know, 6 classes, I think? Oops. And then you just move on. And you just move on. Can you guys hear me? Yeah, okay, all right. I'm just checking that someone in the chat can't hear. But and if you understand that we can't control the seeds that are right there in the moment. I'm sorry, but stuff will just fly out of your mouth. Stuff will just fly out of your heart. Your mind will just go to things. Right? Like, and then you just go, shit. And then you move on. He does have a loving heart. He's so good at reducing afflictions. Actually, that particular one took me about 12 hours to get over. It was pretty nasty. I had to, it wasn't until like later that night. I didn't have time to really because we were running an event. Went home and I had to meditate and I had to process. And then I had to write all the apologies. I had to confess it. I confessed it to the people in the meeting. I apologized specifically to the person who was upset. And it turned out the person who I thought was upset wasn't upset at all. It was so funny. They're like, "Oh, Tim, that wasn't a problem. You kind of spoke the truth." I was like, "Oh, God. Fuck. I wasted 12 hours on someone who wasn't even upset with me." Get it? But the opposite usually happens, right? Other people are upset with us and we don't spend any time on them being upset, right? Because we're self-cherishing. Anyway, but that's the point. So the point is the outer support. What outer support do you have to protect your vows? One, we talked about having friends. I have a fun picture here. You need people to protect you. Here's a lifeguard. Monica's like, "Whoa." She's like, "Whew, Tim." Okay. You need someone to protect you. Who's that protector in the monastery? When you first take your vows, you have someone called a nelam. And it's called they call them a monastic preceptor, a ne lama, which ne means crucial point, lama means lama. So someone who's a crucial person to guide you through, you know. And this person, typically in the monastery, they spend like the first 10 years with you. It's a huge responsibility. And really the only thing that you can do without asking their permission is brush your teeth and go to the bathroom. You know, it's someone who really cares for you, like a parent. Like imagine when you're a baby, you know, the first 10 years of your life, really, your ne lama are your parents, right? They're with you almost all the time. You don't do anything without your parents' permission, except, you know, when you're a baby, you just pee and poop. Like you don't ask your parents' permission to do that, right? And then they clean it up, right? Um, but a ne lama, and it's really important to have somebody. So how does this translate into lay people life? You know, I have a lama, right? I have several lamas. My primary lama is not available to me all the time. My primary lama is super busy. My primary lama has lots of students. So I don't get, although I've changed the karma for that. In the beginning, I had no time with them. I had class time, which is where I learned a lot. But really didn't get like when I was having a meltdown, I didn't have time to be with them. I couldn't call them and be like, oh, my life is terrible. I can't believe this happened. So you need people like that. So find a ne lama, find somebody who's maybe not your primary teacher, but maybe someone who has a little bit more experience, who you can call when you're having a meltdown. That's what we call a ne lama, someone who can guide you through. You know, one of my first ne lamas was Rob Haggerty. It can be several people, but it's better to have like one person who really knows you, like someone who knows you, you can call and be like, oh, well, I'm having a bad day. Okay, and then they listen and they support you because we all need the emotional support. I'm not being facetious or flippant. Like we need it. Like we need someone who can be there, who's a practitioner too, who understands the challenges. Yeah, you know what the vows are, great, but that doesn't mean you're not going to have some seeds flow out of you. You're going to have a meltdown. Mhm. I have two name lamas actually. No, mine's different now, but you know, I have people I can go to, but I have people who are like not my lamas, but like actually someone who lives right close to me. I just go over. I'm like, can I talk about my life? Yeah. You know, and then we come to karma and emptiness. Like you want someone who can support you, hug you, and then like guide you back to karma and emptiness when you're ready. So it's a great system. Find a name lama and then use that. Okay. The second thing, so that's the first thing. The second thing to keep your vows is the inner support, right? Your own intentions. Like, what was your intention when you took the vows in the first place? What was your motivation? Your motivation is to get out of this samsaric life. Your motivation was to remove all mental afflictions in the Vinaya context. I love this picture because it's like this child is like already has a cosmic vision. What was your cosmic vision when you took the vows? It's beautiful to take vows. And then you get in the car and you go home and you get pissed off at the driver on the way home, right? It was about 20 miles outside of Diamond Mountain when I had my first affliction. I got annoyed at a slow driver. Like, I just laughed at myself. Like, are you kidding me? Are you kidding? So what is your own intentions? Outer support. Find the friends. Find your spiritual friends. Your shenyo, geshe shenyos, right? Find that spiritual friend. Find your nema. What are your internal support, your intentions? Always go back to that. Well, you're gonna screw up. Just let yourself screw up. When you make a mistake, just screw up. Don't beat yourself up. No. Third thing is you have to study the vow. You have to study. What do they mean? What things go against the vows? What kind of behaviors trigger mental afflictions? What does it mean to actually break a vow? Okay. What does it really mean? You know, when we study Bodhisattva vows, we spent hours. We spent hours going through what it meant to actually break a vow and what it meant to keep a vow. So know them, learn them, love them. They are your best friend, actually. They are, over time, it may not seem this way now, but over time, they become, as if you guys remembered on last class, the Vinaya Sutra is a substitute for the Buddha. So your vows are kind of that. They're substitutes for the Buddha. They are the teacher. Imagine having the Buddha's words in your head, having the teacher's words in your head all the time. You know, how cool is it when you have that experience where you're about to have a mental affliction and then something happens to stop it? I remember one day I was with Geshe Michael, and this was years ago. I was still working corporate, and then, you know, and we were at a retreat at Fountain Mountain, and I didn't tell my boss I wasn't coming into the office. So it's Friday morning. I drove to Diamond Mountain on like Thursday night, and I was like, I'm going to work remotely on Friday. And I didn't tell my boss. And we had our normal meeting start at 8 a.m. So we had our 8, whatever time it was. We just had a, 15 minutes, like set the day staff meeting, which is very beautiful practice to do every day with your staff. And so I was starting to concoct this plan of what I was going to say in the staff meeting to like say, hey guys, you know, I'm not coming into the office today, but I'm available whenever you need me, right? But I concocted this whole story. Um, and right before the meeting, or I was in the meeting, and right before I was about to say something, Geshe Michael looked at me and he said, oh, Tim, can you get me some Cheerios? Cheerios is a cereal, like a breakfast cereal. And I was like, okay, Llama, so I got up and got my Llama some Cheerios. And I handed him the Cheerios, and I realized that he interrupted my mental affliction. I was about to lie about what was going wrong. I was about to lie in front of my teacher, right? Doing a holy thing, doing a retreat, but lying to my job. That's the worst thing you can do. Okay. There was so much bad going on. I'm doing a holy thing, but I'm going to lie to do it. Come on. So I found a way to tell my team the truth, which was, hey guys, because I think I was going to tell them I was sick or something. I was something stupid like that. But I just said, hey guys, I can't come into the office today, and I am available via text whenever, if you need something. Of course, my boss wrote me. He was like, literally, he swore at me. He's like, what the F does that mean? And I was like, sorry, Lucas, like I said, I don't know what I said, but I'm sorry, but I can't come in today and I'm available to help. And I just left it at that. But I had the karma to have the mental affliction interrupted. It was stopped. Okay. That's when you know your practice is going well. You're about to do something wrong and it's flowing out of you because you can't control it. And then something interrupts it. Okay, that's when you know your practice is going well. And then the fourth thing to protect your vows from being damaged is to master, they call it mastering the monastic practices. And I have a fun picture for this. Become a master of the monastic practices. That's for you, Francisco. What are the monastic practices you become mastered at? And then, what does that mean in real life? Okay. There's 17 foundational practices, okay, that are grouped into 3 categories. Okay. The practices themselves, how to sustain them, and then the monastic rites like soja and all the different ceremonies that they do. What does it mean for us? Become a master at observing your vows. Become a master at wanting, or how to say it, become a master of karma and emptiness. How about that? Become a master of what causes certain things. Spanish translator, I think, froze. I don't know if there's a backup. So become a master of confession. Become a master at just, showing others that you are a practitioner and a practitioner will make mistakes, and be humble about it. Start looking at, well, if I do this, it causes that. If I do this, it causes that. That's what we mean by that. You can be Yoda, right? That picture of Yoda, right? You could probably develop some of those if you keep your vows really well. Then you can start developing capacities to serve people that are extraordinary. That's what that means. What happened here? Okay. So one of the last parts of in this outline, I am not going through every single detail, by the way. One of the last parts of this outline is that how do you create the monastic space? How do you build a monastic space? Like build the building, right? Build the holy place. So, okay, we're not building monasteries. By the way, there's a beautiful project to help restore and build extra dormitory housing at our monastery, Sarah May, Galron House. There's a big project to rebuild. It's like a $500,000 or $600,000 project to rebuild a dormitory, so they have a place to live. Um, and I'll talk about that a little bit later. But how do you build your sacred space? Okay, we're not building monasteries. You're building your sacred space. So one of the first things it says is in the foyer in front of the door, you need to put a picture of the wheel of life. to remind you of the impermanence of everything. And the last part of this class is we're going to go over the pieces of the wheel of life, just so you guys know what they are. There's tons of teachings on this. Like we could talk about this for weeks, what the wheel of life means. But this is just a brief overview of it. So here we go. This is what you're supposed to put in your front door. By the way, before you could go there, if it would scare people or offend people, don't do it. Okay. Be skillful. You know, fit with your culture, fit with your, with your practice. A lot of what these practices are, it's a personal practice. But it's very helpful to have it there to look at. I would promise you, if you put it up within 5 days, you won't see it anyway. You just stop looking at it. So I move my paintings around my house all the time so I can look at them. Anyhow, here we go. Here's the wheel of life. That's not it. There's the full wheel of life. Okay. So let's go into the parts of it. So this outer ring, there we go. There's an outer ring, which includes the 5 types of beings, which we talked about in ACI 8. Okay? Humans, spirit realm, hell realm beings, pleasure realm beings, and what are the 5? Hell realm and formless realm beings. Okay. Humans and no, I'm sorry. Pleasure, formless realm beings, humans, animals, spirit beings, and hell realm beings. Those are the 5. And they're represented by one of these in the picture. The 5 different places that you can be reborn, which we talked about in ACI 8. In that middle circle, see that part that's white in here? There's another circle, which is the beings in the bardo that are traveling from death to rebirth, spinning around, right? So the idea here is like they're spinning around. It's like almost like it's kind of random what seed's going to ripen. So you're in the bardo spinning around, and you'll pop out in one of these 5 realms. Okay, that's the second part. The third part is the center of this work, and it has 3 animals in it. And what do those animals represent? They represent the basic nature of our mind. So the animal on top is a pigeon, which represents ignorant liking, which we define as trying to get things ignorantly. Like, oh, I want a partner, so I'm going to steal someone else's partner. Oh, I want money, I'm just going to take the money. Or even thinking that your money comes from working hard could be ignorant liking. And then the snake represents ignorant disliking. Getting things away from you in an ignorant way. Yelling at people, for example. Getting divisive speech, things like that. And then the pig at the bottom is eating the 2 of them, the snake and the pigeon, which it means just ignorance in general. And this is the center of the wheel of life because that's what drives all of it. It's not understanding how the world works in general by ignorance. And then out of ignorance splits off 2 things, liking and disliking, right? Kind of 2 basic emotions. I like it, I don't like it. Try to get things in an ignorant way, you try to get rid of things in an ignorant way. Okay, so here's the center. Here's the next ring, the Bardo rings, the 5 realms you can live in. Then outside that ring are the 12 links of dependent origination. How you flow around, how karma flows around, how cause and effect works. And that really just means like this very first link here is a blind man or blind woman, which represents misunderstanding. And because you misunderstood something, these other 12 things have to happen. There's huge teachings on this. We don't have time to go through all of this. But just know that because you misunderstood something, the whole thing has to spin. Then outside of that circle is this kind of monster, Lord of Death, which basically is to remind us that everything inside is impermanent. Everything inside is changing. And it's shown as a monster because we don't understand that. We are in the clutches of impermanence. We want things to be permanent, right? We want our lives to be good. We think even ourselves is not going to change, which we know is not true, but we're in the clutches of this, right? That's why it's kind of a monster. And everything that exists inside that. And then outside of that circle is the Buddha, who's no longer in that, pointing to the moon. Over here. Meaning that if you get outside of that, that's how you reach nirvana. If you can get outside that wheel of life, then you're not stuck in that. You're not stuck in all this stuff, which is what we're trying to do with the vows, to get out of that. And finally, at the bottom, you can see some text. Okay. And this is where we're going to end today's class. What does it say at the bottom here? And I'm going to read it to you in translation. Here we go. So the text at the bottom says, take it up and give it up, meaning what you should start doing and what you should stop doing. And then enter the teachings of the Buddha. So, and then the next line says, like an elephant that stamps on a house made of reeds, destroy the Lord of Death in the same way. So imagine an elephant just walking through and then stepping on a house made of palm leaves, right? You should do the same thing with the Lord of Death in the same way. So anyone who takes the proper care and practices the Vinaya, practices this disciplining Dharma, they'll be able to leave behind the wheel of rebirth and put an end to their suffering. So if you can understand the nature of this wheel, you can understand how this all works, you'll be able to end your own suffering, which is actually going to be helping you end the suffering of others too. When I said elephant walking on what? Elephant stepping on a house made of sticks. Like just crush the house. Or you could think of like a big like brontosaurus stepping on stuff, like right, doesn't care, just like destroys it. And that's what you should be doing with your own suffering. Like have that chutzpah, have that determination to be like, bam, I'm gonna do this. right? And how do you do it, right? How do we do that? The foundation, that's what we're talking about, that foundation. How do we do that? Starts with caring for our own mind, just actually caring for others, right? But having that motivation, that caring for your own mind to care for other people. So, and we're going to go through what all of those things are in this class. To get your mind into a stable place, a tame place, a calm place, where you're able to then, when a mental affliction starts arising, you're able to stop it. You're able to see it. Right? And I like that, babe, because our mind is like a wild elephant, but we can use that wild elephant to actually tame ourselves. Cool. Thank you all for coming today. I appreciate it. Thank you for wanting to do this. It's a lot of, for me, it's a lot of fun. Thank you to the translators. And thanks for all the tech people. Octavian, how are you? It's good to see you. I didn't see you there. Hi. Please turn. Oh, Gabriela, Argentina. Hi.
Thank you.
So good to see all of you. So we'll see you on Saturday morning, Arizona time for class 3. Um, thanks for joining, guys. It's special to me that you're here. It really is. And yeah, let's say goodbye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Thank
Thank
you
you,
so
guys.
much.
Thank you
Feliz
so
día,
much.
Bye
gracias.
bye，谢
Grazie
谢大
mille.
家，
Ciao, ciao.
Yo.
谢谢。
Hi, thank you.
Gracias.
Thank you.
Ciao, Tim. Please stay.
Bye. Xin chào.
Our dear Pittsburgh
Thank you,
Lama,
Tim.
dear team, thank you very much for teaching
Please
us.
stay and teach
Pittsburgh
us.
Lama.
Team. Thank you. Bye bye.
Thank you so much. That was very fun.
Thank you, Lama Pittsburgh.
It's Pittsburgh Llama. Thank you, Pachi. Hey. Oh, Shanti, hi. How are you? All right, guys. Have a wonderful day. See you soon. Safe travels, Flavia.